This code can be considered quite ambitious, as it aims to cover inspection, repair, alteration, and re-rating activities for pressure vessels in service. Additionally, it also includes pressure relief devices, such as safety valves or ruptured discs. As we mentioned earlier, the topic of repairs is particularly complex. Therefore, for this section, API 510 relies on the guidelines established by ASME PCC2. It applies to chemical process vessels in service unless specifically excluded, and it may also be applied in other industries. We know that for the design and construction phase, other codes apply, such as ASME VIII Division 1. However, most of the requirements, such as design, welding, NDE, and materials, can also be applied to the inspection, re-rating, repair, and alteration of pressure vessels in service. Naturally, API 510 is not a substitute for the requirements of the original construction codes, and that's why it directly relies on the pressure vessel design code. API 510 covers pressure vessels such as heat exchangers and pressure relief devices, including safety valves and rupture discs. It's also important to understand that there are exceptions where it does not apply, which we'll review later in the course. And as we've already mentioned, the scope of API 510 begins at the point of inspection, and there are different types of inspections: initial, periodic, internal, external, or in-service inspections. It also covers repairs, whether permanent or temporary, and with or without welding. Alterations are also included within the scope of API 510. These alterations may involve changes in service, capacity, connections. In other words, any modification that results in a change to the equipment's original design parameters. Finally, re-rating is also within the scope of this code. Reclassification or re-rating involves defining the new operating conditions of the equipment due to changes that have occurred. So now we ask ourselves, what fluids are covered under API 510? This code includes various process fluids, hydrocarbons, and toxic or flammable service fluids, similar to petroleum and chemical products, catalyst lines, hydrogen, natural or combustible gas, and flare systems, sour water and hazardous wastes, hazardous fluid services, and cryogenic fluids, N2, H2, O2, and air. Although API 510 and ASME VIII apply at different stages in the life cycle of equipment, there are overlaps between them that can often lead to confusion. This is because although ASME VIII was developed exclusively from the perspective of new construction, API 510 often refers to it, but from the context of equipment that's already in service. In general, for new equipment construction, we must use ASME VIII. For repairs, we use API 510, but whenever it refers to ASME VIII and does not contradict it, we can rely on ASME VIII. For repairs, and in cases where API 510 contradicts ASME VIII, then API 510 will take precedence. This is because the purpose of this code is to specify in-service inspection to determine the integrity of pressure vessels and pressure relief devices in service, not with respect to the original design parameters. There may also be discrepancies between what ASME indicates and what the pressure equipment regulations require. In such cases, the more restrictive or conservative parameters must be followed. API 510 provides accurate and timely evaluations to determine changes in equipment condition. As we saw earlier in the life cycle, API 510 does not cover inspection at the point of origin or commissioning. For these cases, we should refer to other codes in order to carry out the inspections. For example, API RP 588 can be consulted. API RP 588 is the standard for conducting origin inspections and quality oversight of static equipment. That is, it establishes the foundation for developing an appropriate commissioning and mechanical completion procedure for static equipment. Note that RP stands for Recommended Practice. It's a recommended practice developed by the American Petroleum Institute API. It sets out a series of clear guidelines and checklists for what must be inspected. API RP 588 defines parameters for the necessary quality oversight of materials, equipment, and the fabrication of newly installed equipment in plants. Here we can see a diagram of the different components involved in commissioning, although it's not the objective of this course to go into detail on this topic. We began first with the preparation phase, where commissioning and activities are defined. Then comes implementation, which includes pre-commissioning, dry commissioning, wet commissioning, and performance testing if applicable. Finally, the closeout or completion phase, where the handover to operations takes place. In addition to RP 588, there are other standards that serve as references for commissioning in the industrial sector, such as the NORSOC standard. Alongside commissioning, we also have the punch list, which outlines the remaining closeout items for project completion, that is, minor repairs or adjustments still pending in order to consider the project finalized. There are certain types of equipment, such as those installed at the wellhead of an oil well, that is, pressure vessels used in exploration and production service, drilling, production, gathering, transportation, and treatment of oil, natural gas, and brine, that must be inspected in accordance with Section 9 of API 510. For this equipment, Section 6, inspection frequency, does not apply since the inspection frequency must be determined based on unique factors such as operating conditions or local regulations and not solely according to the predefined intervals in API 510. Except for Section 6, the remaining sections of this inspection code are applicable to pressure vessels in exploration and production service. An example of such equipment are three-phase separators. There are certain types of pressure equipment not included within the scope of API 510. These exceptions are listed in Annex A of the code. Examples of such equipment include pressure vessels installed on mobile structures, such as trucks or ships. All types of containers excluded from the scope of ASME VIII Division 1 are also excluded from API 510. Piping systems are also excluded. For piping systems, we refer to API 570. Another example, pressure vessels intended for human occupancy, such as certain submarines. An example of equipment that falls outside the scope of ASME Section 8 Division 1 are boilers. Boilers are not designed according to this code and therefore cannot be inspected under API 510 either. Another example of equipment that we cannot inspect using this code is rotating equipment such as centrifugal pumps. As we've already mentioned, piping systems are also outside the scope. In some cases, the distinction between a piping system and a pressure vessel can be a fine and unclear line. Basically, by definition, a piping system is one that transfers fluid from one point to another within the system. There are, for example, certain components, like headers, that are part of a piping system and could potentially be considered pressure vessels because their primary function is not transport but process related. However, generally speaking, as we've mentioned, piping systems fall outside the scope of API 510 and should be addressed under API 570. ASME VIII Division 1 covers vessels defined as containers of internal or external pressure. The issue is that this definition applies to a very broad range of pressure vessels, some of which were not considered in the development of the rules. So, to simplify everything we've discussed so far, Annex A of API 510 presents a small flowchart that lays out a series of questions we must answer to determine whether the equipment we want to inspect falls within its scope or not. For example, is the equipment intended for human occupancy? Yes or no? If it is for human occupancy, we would follow the flow to the end and confirm that it's exempt from Division 1. If it's not for human occupancy, we would need to define the design pressure of the equipment. Is it greater or less than 15 psi? We must continue answering a series of questions to determine whether the equipment is within or outside the scope. As we've seen, throughout the life cycle of a pressure vessel, different codes and standards apply. And as we can imagine, API 510 references many of them. Like other international standards, it cannot cover in detail all the technical aspects needed to inspect and repair pressure vessels. Therefore, it relies on complementary standards to provide more specific guidance or to broaden its scope. One of the first complementary standards we must review and keep in mind is API 571, which covers damage mechanisms. These damage mechanisms help us, on one hand, to properly select materials for a specific fluid and operating condition, and on the other, to assess what has happened to the equipment. Next, we have API 572, which establishes inspection practices for pressure vessels, not to be confused with API RP 588, which, as we mentioned, is a guide for commissioning. Then we have API 579, Fitness for Service, API 580, and 581 for risk-based inspection. ASME PCC1, which provides guidelines for bolted joints, for example, used to calculate the torque of a bolted joint based on the type of gasket used. We also have ASME PCC2, which addresses the repair of pressure equipment and piping, and is fully complementary to API 510. Then we have the Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code, Section 2 for materials, Section 5 for non-destructive testing. As we've seen, Section 8 Division 1 for pressure vessel design, Section 8 Division 2 for pressure vessel design using alternative rules, and Section 9 which covers welding. These are not all of the complementary standards, but they are some of the most important to consider when inspecting or repairing a pressure vessel in accordance with API 510.